What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about an experience that I went through in prison that I witnessed. It was at the camp I was at, and it's going to be murder in prison. And you know, when I first started going to prison, I never thought that I would see a murder. You know, you hear stories, you hear other people that have seen it, but I didn't think that I would actually watch something go down like that with my own eyes. But hey, shit happens. But before we get into this episode, salute to everybody who has subscribed to the channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment after this video. So let's get into it. This story takes place in Gulf, CI. Gulf is in the panhandle of Florida. The last place you want to go when you go to prison in Florida is into the panhandle. Shit's crazy up there. It's usually where a lot of rough camps are, violent camps. So I get to Gulf, CI, and I have other episodes on this channel that have to do with some stuff that I went through at Gulf. You know, I get there, I go into the orientation dorm. I was there about like 12 hours. And then they told me that I'm going to M dorm. So I get my shit together and I go over to M dorm. I walk in, I go to the officer station, and they're like, you're on bunk such and such. I forget the exact number of the bunk. I know I was on a bottom bunk because, you know, your boy finesses the system. So I go over to the bunk he assigned me to, and I have a bunkie, and he's on the top bunk, and he's kind of laid back. He had his foot locker on top of his bed with like the door open on the foot locker, and inside he was on a touchscreen phone, and he had earbuds in. And I didn't know at the time, but come to find out, he was a member of the MS-13, which is a gang all over the world now. They're known as a violent gang. So when I was setting my shit down, you know, I could tell he was kind of feeling me out. He didn't know me from a hole in the wall. So when you're on a phone and you're doing shit like that in prison, you always want to know who you're surrounding yourself around. So for all he knew, like, I could have been a snitch. And so we kind of vibed for a little bit. He realized I was good people. I realized he was good people. There was a bunch of other members over there of MS-13 kind of kicking it. They were smoking Tucci and shit. So I kind of met all them, and you know, he was like, hey man, if you need to call anybody, if your phone isn't on, because I had just got into prison, he's like, I got you. So I was like, all right, bet that up. You know, I was in the dorm for, I don't know, it was like a week, and you know, when you first get in a dorm, you're feeling everyone out, and I kind of met a couple guys that I became cool with. When you're in prison, you know, what I did when I first got to prison was I got on my workout routine. I've always worked out. I don't know how to do time without working out. I don't know how people do time and don't work out. Usually the people that do that, you know, they're on drugs or they're getting high in prison. But anyway, so I found a group of guys. I started working out. As I'm working out, every time we start working out, because we were working out in the dorm because they weren't open in the yard because of like violence in the camp. Like, it was rare that, you know, it was winter, so they're not calling third rec. So usually the yard would be like first thing in the morning, and they kick you out of the dorm. So you don't really want to work out then because you're like just waking up and shit. At least that's not how I did my routine. So anyways, we're working out, and every time we work out, there's this black guy. He was like a younger dude. He was probably like 25, 30. Like clean cut black guy. He was always like, yo man, when we gonna work out together, da da da. And like, I don't know, I just like felt this weird vibe from him. So, and I was right. And you know, usually when you have that gut feeling in prison about somebody, you stick to that feeling because it's usually right. What he would do was he would wait till at nighttime, this officer would work her night shift, and he would gun her down. I think she would come in at like 4 or 5 at shift change. He would always be in the shower, and instead of facing the wall in the shower in an open bay dorm, he would turn around and he would look at her while he's like washing his shit up when she was in the officer station. So I guess they had like this little thing going on where she would let him gun her down. One night, they shut the lights off. He would go into the day room like he was getting water at the water fountain, and he would gun her down. But I don't know, for whatever reason, but this night she wasn't feeling that shit. So like, we would all be chilling when the lights are out, you know, listening to the radio. Some people would come over near your bunk and you'd be vibing and shit. That's kind of what was going on. And all of a sudden, like, it's like 11:30, all the lights in the dorm come on. And you see this guy that was at the water fountain. He comes walking out of the day room, hits the ground, and starts army crawling under the single bunks in the middle of the open bay dorm. So he was army crawling under so she wouldn't see him, which she already knew who the hell he was. So anyway, she called for backup, I guess, turned the lights on. All the officers on the compound, like when they hit that button, they all come running. So they come running in the dorm. She comes out of the officer station and she's like, that was that motherfucker right there. So he's on his bunk acting like he's sleeping. All the lights are on, so it just looks suspect as fuck. So they go over, they grab him up, they tell him cuff up, they cuff him up, they take him out of the dorm. Now they're all outside the dorm talking to him, and you know, everybody's kind of like wondering what the fuck's going on. So the next thing you know, that officer comes in the dorm and he's like, everybody stand up and get down to your boxers. So everybody gets up, we get down to our boxers, and they're like, everybody in the day room. So they would only take like 8 inmates at a time. They put us on the wall. We grab the wall, they pat us down, you know, make us squat and cough, and then we all go in the day room. So we go in the day room, they got us packed in there like a can of sardines, and they call for a K9. So the K9 comes in, but what's funny is the K9 that came in, he barely even went into the dorm, and like 2 officers walked over to where the cell phones were, the bombs, and they found everything. So what had happened was this guy, when he was outside the dorm with the officers, had like, he didn't want to go to the box for gunning, because at golf at that time, you know, if you go to the box for gunning, you're going to go through it in the box. They're going to spray you. They're going to torture you. They're going to spray you, leave you in the cell, not take you to the shower for like an hour, put you on no sheet restrictions in the dead of winter. So shit got real in the battlefield back there. So he didn't want to go to the box. So he thought if he told the cops where all the shit was in the dorm and everything that was going on, that he wouldn't have to go to the box. And this is a perfect example on why you never snitch, because they probably told him, well, tell us some shit we want to know, and we'll, you know, we'll put you in another dorm and not send you to the box. Whatever they tell somebody in that situation, because they got to be telling him something for him to give up cell phones of gang members, where the bombs are at, all that shit. So he ends up telling them, they come in, they find the dope, they take him to the box anyways. And that's what I meant about when you're snitching, you're not going to get anything out of it. They're going to finesse you to get what they want, and then they're just going to send you where they were going to send you before you even gave them what they wanted. And that's what happened. It was about a week later, and I end up getting in the fight with the Booty Bandit. It's another episode I did on this channel. I'll link that in the description. I'm not going to go into that whole story, but I ended up in the box. When you're back there, you can talk to people through the vent, like above you or below you, depending on which level of the tier you're on. MS-13 was sending kites to the orderlies, to people back there in confinement, because they wanted to wet dude up that told on where the phones were and where the bombs was. Like, they had a hit on them. And it never ended up happening in the box. So I get out of the box after I do my time. I forget how long he was back there, but he ends up hitting the compound. Now, word was he tried to check in, but in Florida, like, you gotta have a good reason to check in. And if you're trying to do it at a camp where the officers already aren't fucking with you, you're not gonna be able to check in. It's just that simple. They're gonna make you go handle your shit and face up to whatever, you know, you got going on. So one day I'm on the yard, I'm doing pull-up, dips, supersets. The day he got out of confinement, they did mandatory rec. So there's 3 dorms out on the yard, and it just so happened to be M dorm, which was the one he snitched on about the cell phone. So I go out to the yard. I'm really not like paying it any attention, because I didn't know if it was gonna pop off right then or if it wasn't. So I'm doing supersets of dips and pull-ups, and I could eventually, during the yard time, I could feel the tension that was on the yard. Like, you can tell when something's gonna go on. You just like have that feeling. You see shit moving different. You see groups grouping up on the yard that normally don't group up, and you can just, I could just feel that shit. So the next thing I know, I hit a set, I'm like chilling, kind of posted up, and I look across the yard, and you see one group start walking towards the black kid that ended up snitching on the phone. And the next thing you know, like 3 of those dudes had knives on him, and they wet him up. Now, I don't know how many times they ended up stabbing him. The rumor was like he got stabbed like 65 times. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I do know this is true. When that happened, he was covered in blood. The officers came out on the yard. They told everybody to lay down. They took us off the yard, one dorm at a time. They put the whole compound on lockdown. There was a helicopter that landed in the yard and bay flighted him to a hospital, and the kid didn't live. And that's the type of shit that goes on in prison. And, you know, he kind of made his own bed, so now he has to lay in it. And, you know, unfortunately, that's when you're in there, those are the kind of rules that you got to abide by. And I'm not telling you guys this story to glorify this. Honestly, I'm telling you because when I saw that, it just made me realize, like, this shit is life or death. Like, you gotta be on your P's and Q's. And, like, it didn't look like this in the brochure. No, I'm just playing, but, like, I didn't realize how serious shit gets so quick. Like, it can literally go from keying around to, you know, vibing with your homeboys to the next thing you know, someone just got murdered in front of you. And, you know, so after that, I really paid attention to who I opened that door to, because in prison, when you open that door, sometimes it can be hard to close that door. So you really got to know who you're fucking with, because if I would have let that kid start working out with me before all that shit went down, who's to say when he snitched and went to the box and all this shit was going on that they didn't automatically tie me into that because I was working out with him. And now I just inherited all his bullshit for no reason other than just working out with him. So that's what I mean by you got to know who you're around, and you got to know your surroundings when you're in there. So if you're out there living that life and you think that you're going to go to prison and you ain't going to see no shit and you're just going to do your time, man, you are mistaken, because I had that same thought. And the more you try to not be involved in shit, the more shit just makes you get involved with it. So anyways, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. I appreciate and salute everybody that has subscribed to the channel. This wouldn't be possible without y'all watching, and I know that. So I'm gonna be dropping more episodes like this of, you know, my personal stories that I went through and saw, and just how shit can get so crazy in the prison system. But hey, with that, it's DOC TV, and I'm out.